The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to invite you to our next installment of Tips and How-Tos with Patrick DuChene. Today we're going to be covering Dynascape Color. So before we get going, I just want to let you guys know about today's agenda, do a little bit of housekeeping. So all of the questions that you have, there's a chat window that you can enter into questions. Put all your questions in there, and at the end of the webinar, we'll handle about 2 or 3 of them. And at the end, for whatever questions we don't answer, we'll get Patrick to answer them for us, and we'll send them out to the group. We are recording this webinar, so you don't have to worry about if you didn't miss part of it, then you'll be able to go back and review the entire webinar at your leisure and convenience. So covering today, we're going to be learning about Dynascape Color, setting up the Dynascape design drawing for a smooth transition from design to color. Patrick's going to give us a full explanation of the functionality of color and its capabilities, when to color and when not to color, the update presentation function, which is probably one of the most dynamic and time-saving functions of Dynascape Color, and the importance of working with 2 monitors. And following that, we'll go into some questions from the group. So a little bit about Patrick, if you weren't able to join our first 2 webinars. He's a grad of Ohio State University for landscape architecture and horticulture. He started using Dynascape back in 2003. He has a wealth of experience, and he started his own business back in 2013. He's been in the trenches. He's run $2 million divisions, so he's seen just about as much as he can see. And he has an unbelievable passion for helping people. So I'm going to kick it off and hand it over to Patrick so that he can take us on this journey through Dynascape Color. Patrick, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect. I'm going to hand over the screen to you.
Okay.
And you're going to take us through color.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Patrick DuChene, like Joe just said. And the first 2 webinars were good webinars. We went over some tricks, and then I figured we could really jump into some color and make it a little bit more fun. I bought color back when, probably the day after it came out. And once I started using it, it was really hard for me to decide which program helped me more, design or color. Because to color render a drawing well and to show all the representations of heights and grades and shadows is pretty time consuming. At least it was for me with markers and colored pencils. So the ability to color a drawing very quickly was an incredible thing for me to be able to do, especially keeping up with a sales goal and production of running a division. So before I show you really what color can do, we want to start in design first, because that's where everything is going to stem from, or that's from where everything's going to stem. So I've prepared a drawing here that I'm going to bring into color, and we will color a little bit of it. I'm going to show you some of the functionality, and then I'm going to show you a couple tricks again that I like to do to speed me up, and then I'll show you the final drawing, or the final color rendered drawing that was from one of my clients. So this is kind of a front yard master plan with all the things that we deal with every day: driveway, grass, retaining walls, beds, steps, paving stones, vehicles in the driveway, property lines, everything we're used to seeing with a house. So there are a couple ways to approach this. And again, it's like the software, there's many different ways to do things. So you just have to decide which way is the best for you. So when I do my drawings, and when everybody else does drawings where you want to be able to do takeoffs, you want to have closed polylines, which is you want to have closed areas, because you want to be able to measure those. You want to be able to left click and right click and get your linear footage. You want to be able to click inside and get your square footage. And if you don't have closed areas in your drawing, you aren't going to be able to do that unless you do kind of the roundabout way where you kind of enclose the area. But that takes too much time, and it's not as accurate as being able to measure an exact area within an enclosed area. So when you do a Dynascape drawing that you want to take into Manage 360, which is another dynamic thing that they're going to be doing some webinars on, when you prepare this for color, you want to have a drawing that has a lot of closed areas like this. Now that's a ghost line there, but a lot of closed areas that you're going to be able to color in. If they're not closed, they won't color. All the plants will color just fine because they've been created to accept color. So here are the two ways to do this, and I'll keep it pretty simple so we can spend most of the time in color. When I do my drawings, when I draft, at the end, I'll close all my poly areas, I'll clean everything up, and I'll just have my walkway layers, plant bed layers. But there's a feature in design, and it is a layer called the color setup layer. When I click over to color setup, what that's going to do is this. So if we want to draw a walkway in a walkway layer, that's our walkway line. If we want to draw a building line, here's the building line. If we want to start outlining our beds in our color setup, what it does is creates this line that looks solid, but when you zoom into it, it's this dashed line. So even though you would think that's not closed, it's closed. It has a property of being a solid line. It just has a really fine texture to it. So what's the purpose of that layer? Well, the purpose of that layer is to kind of be invisible in the background when you're in your design mode, but you'll go through and you'll create all your closed poly areas if you've drawn your drawing without a lot of closed polyline areas. So I draw everything with closed polylines. If you don't, or you don't have Manage, you could just go through at the end, just like I'm doing, close all these areas, and then it's going to do the same as any other line would. It's going to show up. Now, I'm going to save just to make sure. It's going to show up just like another line. So I'm going to snap all these to all of my polyline areas. So once you think you've gone through there, and once you think you've closed all your areas, you can go to modes here where I can go back to design mode that just shows my design, or you can go to color layer mode. What that's going to do is it's going to show you which areas you have enclosed and which ones you haven't. So in my design, if I did the drawing in walkway layer, or in the walkway layer, but I forgot to maybe close, enclose this, that's not going to show up. So it's kind of like a checks and balances where you can flip back and forth from design mode to color setup mode to color layer mode, so you know when you open it in color, it's all ready to color. So let's go back and just put this back in design mode for now. We're going to keep this open because I'm going to show you a really cool function in color. So when you have it design and color, when you own both of these, work with two monitors, please. Minimizing your screen and maximizing and minimizing and maximizing your screen, that's going to take a lot of time out of your day. So for I don't know, if your budget allows for $200, you can get a nice 24-inch Samsung monitor that will really help you be productive. And I'm going to show you where that really comes into play. So here's the interface. This is probably one of the easiest software programs you're ever going to learn. My 5-year-old daughter and I sat last week for an hour, and she went through and picked out all these colors and mulches, and we colored in a drawing together in an hour, which it would have taken me 5 minutes, but you know, everything in the drawing had to be yellow because that's her favorite color. So we had to sift through every single thing to find yellow things. So anyway, a 5-year-old did it. So everybody else can do it. So these are the color styles. There's contemporary, which is a really kind of an abstract. It's pretty cool. I've never used it because I like a little bit more of a traditional look, but you could really create some neat looking stuff with these patterns. And maybe someday I will if I really spend the time to go through them and learn about them and figure out how to make everything mesh. Then there's color pencil. This is a really neat style because this really appeals to a lot of people who are still doing it by hand, who are doing it by color pencil. And if I'm not wrong about this, I think what Dynascape did was they actually had, these are actual colored swatches that somebody did, and they created these into real swatches. So these really are handmade. And then there's my favorite, which is Marker Hybrid. And Marker Hybrid is just kind of a mix of a few different, I love that. Kind of looks like a marker and a colored pencil. And this, I think, is really one of the most realistic swatches because at least when I was color rendering, I'd use marker, and then on your evergreens, you take a white colored pencil and you'd sharpen it and highlight the top to give it its angles. So those are your 3 styles, and each style has different categories of trees, shrubs. There's mulch, there's turf, there's some real nice paving stone textures, pavers. There's a herringbone, all the way down to some really cool water swatches. And then here's some accessories, like this one right here is what I color in a fire to give the to show fire. And then down here you can get into some custom things where I've made mulch, I've made fabrics. I goofed around with making color knockout roses, and then I kind of realized I was really getting way too detailed, so I stopped myself. So 2 ways to bring in files. The first way, when you would start a new color drawing, is this tool right here. And again, just like design, it's kind of dummy proof, where if you highlight this, it says create a new presentation from a Dynascape design. So this is our Webinar 3 practice drawing. So you'll open your drawing, and there's the drawing. That's this exact drawing that is now in color. If you wanted to open up an existing project you've worked on, you would click this button here, and it will give you an option of opening color drawings, and it will show this. So if you get confused about which tool opens which kind of drawing, they make it where you can't open anything else but an existing color drawing you can only open the right kind of file by each tool. So we have our drawing open. So there's a little bit of a layering system here, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So if I wanted to color, let's say I pick an evergreen, and I think I'm going to color this tree, it colors this whole area, and here's why. If I zoom in and I click on this button here that says send aliens to the background, Actually, let me give you an even easier example. Anytime you go to color something, if it's going to color, it's going to outline blue. If it's going to color, it's going to outline blue, just like this that's probably a lawn area. So if I want to color the tree, it's not coloring right now. So I would click backspace, and when I start a drawing, I'll go up to this tool that says Send Selected Items to the Background, and I will go through all the areas that I think would get in the way of coloring plants, and I put them to the background. See, when I even select this to go to the background, you'll see this line turns blue. So it's a really good indicator of what you're doing. So the ground plane surfaces are what I'm going to push in the background. Driveway, grass, mulch. You don't have to do any kind of beds. I'll just throw these in the background as it is. So now, oh, I didn't put that in the background. Hold on one second. Now I can color in my plant material. So if I select this, now I can color it because my ground plane's in the back. So at this point, it's just a matter of going through, deciding what you want to use for particular plant material, and as you use it, just like you use design, you have kind of go-to figures that you use for your plant material. You're going to start kind of developing favorites in this program of what you want to go to. Now, I want to show you something, and I'm going to go back to this. You see this line here? This is this line that I drew in my color layer. If I go into my color layer, let's see, in my color setup, where's that line? That line is showing up there, and I'll figure out where that came from. I'll show you the tool in a minute. So at this point now, what I'll do is I'll just work my way around my drawing kind of systematically, picking out the plants I want to use and coloring those. So, you know, that's not a bad one for Little Princess Spirea. My next plant is an endless summer hydrangea. So we'll use that for an endless summer hydrangea. Then for a Helleri holly, you might go down to something like this. I use these for like hollies and boxwoods. Here's an elegans hosta. So let's just give that kind of a basic, let's just give that something like this. Now, one more, and then I'll show you. Like for shrubs, skip laurels, I like to use this figure. Now, going over to here, we have chocolate ruffle coral bells, which are kind of like a burgundy color. Just because it says trees, shrubs, perennials, it doesn't mean you have to color trees with those. This symbol here, I like to use for my coral bells because it's a nice color for coral bells. I mean, it's the identical color. So I will use that for like bloodgood maples, cutleaf maples, royal burgundy barberry, which are over in here. So let's say we've systematically worked around our plan. We color rendered all of our plant material. Let's just put a couple more in here just to fill in a couple areas more. So there's like a Hamlin fountain grass, and that color would kind of represent the whatever you want to call them, the flowers they send up. These would be slender deutzia. So I like to use this symbol for slender deutzia. And let's do one more. Petit blue caryopteris, or blue mist. I really like this symbol for blue mist shrub because it's a really good representation of the flower. So I try to show clients as close as I can a good representation of the flower color if possible. You know, that's just a style. Not everybody, you know, you don't have to do that, but it does kind of explain to the customer a little bit more or a little bit better what's going on. You know, you obviously would want to tell them not everything's going to be flowering at one time. So you know, your Siberian iris isn't going to be blooming at the same time your spirea would later on in the summer because they're going to be done. So, but the concept is giving them a good idea of what's going on, and that is really the importance of presenting color rendered drawings. So one of the items that Joe said we were going to go over is when to color and when not to color. Well, really the answer is if you can color always, because for this whole drawing, you invest maybe 10 minutes to throw color on this, and 10 minutes to throw color on a drawing is going to drastically increase the potential of you selling a job. So, you know, it's just a no-brainer when it comes to your ability to do this so quickly. So, say we have all of our plant material. Now we want to apply mulch. Now, I do mulch one of the last things I do, because if you were to color your mulch before you plant, I want to do one thing. I want to shut this drawing down a second. And I want to show you an update presentation feature. So I've gone back to, I opened up the drawing. Okay, see this line here? This is what I was showing you about outlining. And that line is showing up right here. So this is a really good segue into a tool, and then I'll jump back to this mulch because we need to fix this. So before they came out with this feature right here called Update Presentation, if you color rendered this drawing in color and then you presented this to a client and they made changes and you had to make changes to your Dynascape drawing, you had to recolor this whole drawing. And as wonderful as it is to be able to color these quickly, it was not wonderful to have to recolor it just for something minuscule. And we all know people make the smallest changes and then they have to see it, you know, in color. They can't imagine it. So what Dynascape did was they created this update presentation feature. And what that does is this. So here is this line that I created that was opened up in color. And I don't want this line in there anymore. Let me go back. So I'm going to delete this line, and I'm going to save this drawing now. So now I have this drawing saved without that line. So if we were to go and we want to get rid of this line, we're going to do an update presentation. We're going to select this drawing, and it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to do this? And I'm going to say, yes, I'm sure I want to do this. So now that line is gone. So here's a really good example of why this is such a really dynamic feature. This is the best feature of the whole program. So let's say you've presented a drawing or a color rendered drawing to a client, and they just found out that next door they're going to be building a Walmart, or they're going to be building another house, or they're whatever, and they need screening along this driveway. So, and they say, we want to see the screening, we want to see the color, whatever. So we'll go back into our design. Let's get rid of these lines because we don't need them anymore. We'll go back into our design and we'll pull out, you know, we'll draw in some trees. Let's do like some 12-foot evergreens, and let's stagger them through, you know, boom, 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 boom. Let's just run them all the way down. Okay, now let's save this. So now, if we were to save this drawing, when we open up the drawing, it'll obviously be colored again, but when we do update presentation and we select that, now our trees are here, those 3 lines are there that I said we don't need. Everything that did not change stays colored. So you don't have to color your whole drawing. All you do is color your trees. So now, watch what happens when I when I color in a shrub, a hedge of, like, let's just say they're like, I don't know, knockout roses or something. Let's put this layer to the background. Let's color these. So when your plants are grouped, which they are in the design, if I highlight those are grouped. They're grouped because I need to do takeoffs. I need to have a plant list. I need to send them into manage. I need to do quick calculations of how many there are, so I'm not counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and wasting time. So these are all grouped. When you click one, they all color. If I were to click this one, they all color. If I go over here and I select, let's say I want to make those like, I don't know, Fat Albert Blue Spruce or Colorados. If these aren't grouped, I have to color every one of them in individually. So that's not that bad to have to do it individually, but over a drawing with all these plants, it's going to get time consuming. So here's the importance of having two monitors. So let's say I drew those in design, opened it up, and I started coloring these, and I said, whoops, you forgot to group them. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back into design. I'm going to group all these, boom, 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 or you can just kind of do this, drag this down and select all of them, and right-click. I'm going to save this. So now watch what happens. I'm going to color this to show you it's still ungrouped. And let's make one really ugly, like a purpley red tree. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to update presentation, select that I saved. I'm going to click yes. So these aren't colored now because their properties changed, but now they all color. This is really, really cool because if you realize once you're in color that you forgot to group something or you forgot to close your polyline, all you do is you move your mouse over to the other monitor you're working on, you make your changes here, make sure you save it, and then you can update your presentation. So you know, as long as I've been using this, there are still times where I'll make the change and then I forget to save it, and I go to update and I'm wondering why it's not updating, but then I realize I didn't save it. So I click save and then I update and then it works. So let's just do some ground plane materials quick. So let's put some mulch in here. Like that's the darker mulch that I like. No, that's not it. That one. So getting back to where I kind of, before I got off on this tangent, I like to color the plants first because I can see them a little bit better against white than I can brown. So you go through and color all of your material or your mulch, your grass. So there's this little, looks like a medicine dropper here. So that's a nice tool because let's say we're over in the rock swatches and we want to color this mulch in this bed that we forgot, and we don't want to run all the way over to mulch. So I can just copy this material and throw it in here. I could throw it in there if I want to. If you color something wrong and you make a mistake, it's no big deal because you go backwards. Or you click your delete tool or your eraser and you erase it. I can go erase these if I decide I really don't want them. But I do want those. So let's medicine drop the mulch in here. And then we'll just put some turf. There's some nice turf swatches. You know, that's nice. I like this one a little bit better because it just gives some gradient to the drawing. We will put some, we don't want decking. We want like a black top in here. We forgot our grass, so we can just medicine drop the grass. And let's just throw some pavers in here. So we have some different options. We have some just basic, this would be like maybe a 6 by 6, 6 by 9 kind of a look. We can go, if we really want to, and do a solid swatch. We could do something like a running bond. We could select that material and we could rotate that on a 45-degree angle to show some kind of differences in layout, which adds some character. We can scale these papers a little bit, so like, you know, a good reason to do that would be like this material here. Like TechoBlock has some materials. One's called Alina, one's called Athena, and Athena looks just like Alina's bigger brother. It's a little bit bigger scale, so you could kind of scale this a little bit bigger to kind of represent Athena. You could rotate this now on a 45-degree angle, and then you can just copy this up into here. And let's say we don't want to rotate that up top. We just want it on a 90. So we'll take that and let's just set that to 0 rotation. Then we can go and put in some steps. So let's just say we're going to do like bluestone slabs. So we have some hardscape elements. Let's just say all these seat wall, not seat walls, but well, that's a retaining wall there. These were Belgian block edges. So that would be like a Belgian block. And you can pick a material that looks like Belgian block. It's all personal preference. So now we want to start shadowing our plant material to give it some height. Now, moving around, I just reminded myself, I want to tell you something. In design, remember when I showed you when you hold Shift and Control and push your mouse in, you can pan around your drawing, and you can hold Shift and Control and zoom in and out? You can do the same thing with color. I'm holding down Shift and Control and zooming in and out, and see, when you, this is a pan tool. It's like an embedded pan tool, and that's just like that looks like in PDF or Adobe. See the little hand by the house. So again, this is a real fast way I move around a drawing. I don't know how quickly this is relaying with the webinar, but you can really fly around here as opposed to using the traditional tools, which are these, which they're great tools, but do it faster so you're not spending more time than you need to. So, okay, so I want to color this Belgian block border, but I forget what texture I used, so I'll just cheat and pull that material and put it up here. So let's get into shadowing. Now, there should be a system for everything you do when you design to make things quicker. So what I do is I'll start with all my perennials. I will assign, let me go back and show you that. This here says add drop shadows to objects. I'm going to click that. So this gives me some real cool options of how to customize the shadows of my plant material. I can assign an angle to the shadow, which I always just do mine down to the bottom right. You can assign a depth, so your perennials are going to be the lowest, or whatever you want to say, the narrowest shadow, and your trees are going to be the largest shadow. So perennials, I make them small. You can play with the opacity, so you can kind of see some things underneath. So I always bring that back to like maybe 60%, 55, 60%. And then you can blur it, which, blurring is a real nice tool, because now it gives it a little, I mean, nothing has a perfect shadow like this. Everything has a little bit of distortion. So for my perennials, I'm going to do something like, I'm going to blur kind of like this. I'm going to bring the depth down. So I will go through every one of my perennials on my drawing and start clicking on those. So every perennial on my drawing is going to have the same height. Even though maybe like a liatris or a, like a lithrum, which actually is illegal probably in most states now, but don't overcomplicate it. Keep all the perennials one height. Then you can bump up the height for shrubs and maybe like a call forester because of the height of the flowers. Let's keep that height the same with our iris, or not our iris, but our Helleri hollies. Our spireas, well, we'll back those down because the little princess really doesn't get too tall. So you can customize it for some varieties of the plant material. Skip laurels, those will get a little bit bigger. And then once we get up to like evergreens, we'll bump those up. And then finally trees. So let's color in a tree. This is a great one for like a red crepe myrtle. And we'll shadow this one almost the highest here. We'll back off the opacity and blur it. But then like an existing tree out here, a real big tree, we will color, let's just color it a basic tree. Existing trees, you want to color them, but don't give them a lot of detail. So you can see what's going on with our layers here. This is kind of behind the grass. So if you go up and you look at bring selected item to the foreground and click that, now it's above. So let's say we have some plants under there. So let's throw let's just throw a really poorly laid out plant massing underneath. Let's save this. Let's go to our drawing, update our presentation to that drawing that I just changed. I mean, you can see how very quickly we can make changes to a drawing on the fly. Now, let's say we're going to paint those this. Now, I should have grouped them, but I didn't take the time because I want to get through this with you. So, let's shadow these. Put the opacity down, bring this down, and we'll shadow them. You can do this, or I could back these all out, and I could just color one of them and apply a shadow, and then when I copy this, it's going to copy its shadow too. So that's pretty cool for if I have like these, let's just say I want to use the same texture for these holly as these boxwoods. I can just pick this up and I can throw it on here too. So or if you have boxwoods in maybe a phase of the project in the back, you don't have to go through and color work area 1 boxwoods, work area 2, work area 3. You could color one work area and shadow them and then just copy that across. So that's another way to fly through it. So we have a problem here where our shrubs are on top of our tree. So we move our tree above our shrubs, so now we can't see the shrubs. So we'll go to our select tool and we'll select our tree, and now we can play with the opacity of our tree, and now we can kind of see what's going on underneath. We could do the same thing with our crepe myrtle. So this is really where your artistic ability can take over and make this really look crafted. So, you know, like I like this one for gold thread cypress, but when you look at it from a distance, the yellow kind of stands out. So what I'll do at the end of a drawing is I'll just go start kind of muting these things a little bit. I'll mute these a little bit. Even if I didn't have something under this crepe myrtle, that just, to me, it stands out way too much and it's a little distracting. So I'll just mute that a little bit. Then I'll go and I will shadow my the steps. So let's just make a step with a depth like this, give it a little bit less opacity, and blur it a tiny bit. So we're going to click on those steps. So you can see that, to me, there's not enough blur. So let's blur that a little bit more. Now, I clicked this one, but it's not showing up because this step is above this one. So all I have to do is put this to the background, move this to the background, and now you're starting to be able to tell the story to your client about elevations and which way your steps are going and what's higher and what's lower. There's a Belgian block curbing. This is a retaining wall. So let's pop this up maybe like this. So now people can see that the grass is lower than this. So let's say we colored our drawing. You could put a roof in here. You go to the roof texture, you put a roof. I'll kind of make the shingles a little bit bigger. You can draw peaks and everything and really shadow those, but that's personal preference. If you think it's worth taking all the time to draw peaks on a house, you can do that. Or you just leave it blank. Some people leave it blank and it looks nice and the landscape pops out, but I always put the house in the shingles because we all know that there are clients who would look at this and they wouldn't even know where the house was. So the more we can save somebody from the embarrassment of not knowing how to read a plan, the better. So then I will apply shadow to the house. A really important feature of this, or a really good reason to use the shadowing is if you're doing a presentation or you're doing a design and there is a, let's just say we want to move that car. Let's just say that instead of this car, we go in and we take a picnic table and we put it right here and we save our drawing and we update our presentation to what I just changed. Now we have a table, which you'd never put this on the front of a driveway, but if you did, we could color in our table with some wood and we would put the tree to the top. So then what you would be able to do is really show a client that you've done your homework and you have created an environment where that's going to shade this if it's afternoon sun or whatever. So you can use this to also show that you have thought about site conditions and micro environments for the property. So it makes you look good. So lastly, let's say we've colored our drawing, everything's good. We've got all this text underneath some of these. All you do is just click Control-T. Watch. I'm going to zoom in so you can see what happens. Keep an eye on this line. As soon as I click Control-T, that pops up. So all your text will go to the foreground, so you don't have to go and play with layers to get your text to the foreground. So let's say we save this, which I'm not going to save this. We shut this down. I'm going to shut this Dynascape down. You will get to a drawing that looks like this. So this is the plan with my plant material. This is how I showed you how to do it, I think, in webinar 1. In another webinar, I'm going to show you more customization, but I'm customizing mine now to have real grass. I made real decorative stone in here because this client did not want mulch. They just wanted a concrete walk. This was Teco block, like a reddish color Belgique stone. This was whatever. So everything is shadowed. Everything is labeled. Our rocks have a little shadow. I forgot to shadow my Royal Burgundy Barberry, which it's not that big of a deal. If I wanted to, I could open color, shadow those and save it, and I'm done. So you can see through this tree are deutzias, and whatever those are, they're probably Coreopsis or something. Yeah, Coreopsis. So it reads real well. It tells the story. It provides height. And it blows the doors off of somebody who walks in after you to try to sell the project that you're trying to sell. They've got chicken scratch or they have black and white. There's no comparison between this and black and white. And I'm not saying that I'm the best at color rendering. I'm saying there's no comparison between giving somebody something that reads and explains everything clearly like this. There's nothing that compares to this. Nothing that compares. So I'll just show you a couple of color drawings I've done to show you really where you can take this. This is kind of a hybrid of Dynascape and my own textures. So this is Teco block. I think it's Harvest Gold blue 60 millimeter. That's real fabric on the chairs. That's Teco block paving stone. This is real mulch. This is real grass. That is Teco, or not Teco block. That's just the Dynascape wood, and obviously all Dynascape planting textures. This is Dynascape black blacktop. So you can really create some neat custom presentations. This is another one where that's water. That's before I was using custom water, but a lot of this is Dynascape. This here, if I zoom in, let's see how clear this is on the webinar. This herringbone, let's go over here. This herringbone clay paver, I took a picture of this on somebody's driveway because I liked it, and I created a custom texture. So they wanted real brick on their walkway, and that's what they're getting. So how perfect is this to be able to even show somebody the exact materials you're using? Now on this I didn't do what I normally do because this was more like a sample for you, but on the right side of the drawing I would have an image of Techo Block Blue 60 and I would have it labeled. So again, it's all about presentation. You're not fumbling around with a Techo Block catalog because you have the pavers, you have the angle of rotation, you have this on a 90, you have this on a 45 to show, make the space feel bigger. This is like this was a real natural stone texture I took. This I think, yeah, that was real granite. I didn't color the grill. I think I forgot to do the grill, but that I do real stainless steel. That's real fabric. But then you can still create really nice looking ones. This was before I customized. This is with all Dynascape. And I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that are probably better at color schemes than I am, but I think I'm okay. But see, like I didn't make some of these opaque like I should have, and they kind of pop out, but still, you can make the trees opaque. So it reads very well. This is kind of the old-fashioned way of bringing in the plant material that I used to do. And you can see why I do it the new way now because they're different sizes in it. I like to have them all the same sizes. So hopefully I presented this in a concise and simple enough way to explain the ease of use of this program, how simple it is. There's some other features in here that it can do, but I wanted to just keep it simple. And for what it costs to buy this software, it's an absolute no-brainer of an imperative tool for you to arm yourself to have the best presentation you can possibly have. So with that, I'll turn it back to Joe, and you can take it from there.
Great, thanks, Patrick. So it looks like we do have some questions, so I'm not going to take over control of your screen just yet because we do have a couple questions that have popped up since you've been going through your webinars. Some I've answered because I was able to, but there are some in here that we'd like to address. So we have time for about 2 or maybe 3 questions. So let me come up here, and I'm just going to, Doug has a question, and he's wondering if you can open, maybe open a blank or bring your drawing back in from design and actually show your true speed. So almost wants you to show off your ability. So if you can do that for us, that'd be cool.
Okay, so I'm going to do what I would normally do. And I'm not really going to talk so I can concentrate. Let's see, slender detail.
Patrick, I certainly think that gives us a great demonstration on how quick you can actually color your drawing. So I do have another question, not to cut you off, but we want to get onto some questions so we can see, you're very proficient, very productive with your drawing. So I'm not going to take your screen away just yet, but we do have another question, and we seem to have a bit of a theme. Folks want to know how to bring in JPEG of real material and turn it into a color swatch. And now I see this as a future webinar, but maybe you can show someone quickly if that's possible.
Okay, it is. It's very easy. I installed. Okay, here's what you do. Up here, you have in Tools, Style Editor. Now, in Style Editor, these are all of the swatches that the software comes with. You can go in and you can adjust these and resave them if you don't want them to come in that dark. But I'm going to add a category. And let's just call this DDS pavers. So the reason I do that is so I'm not sifting through Dynascape pavers. I'm sifting through mine. So I'm going to go and I'm going to select, let me slow down, swatches, DDS pavers, new, texture. Now, this goes back to where, in I think the first webinar, know where all of your things are saved. So in my library, on my desktop, I know when I go to Pictures, I have a folder called Downloaded Textures. There's that one herringbone that I made that one time. So let's make it. So we'll open that. We will select Tile. Now, okay, this is because hold on one second. Let's put these in regular pavers. I put a new hard drive in my computer, and it's been causing me a couple of problems. So let's try to do this through the system here. Oh, okay. Let's try to make this one. Okay. I'm going to tile it. Good, good. This one's working. Okay, so this is, you're going to have to play around with this a little bit where you tile it the right way. So now you click Update, and when you close this, it's going to say, would you like to save these changes? And you say yes. So now when I go into paver pattern, Joe, something's wrong with it. It's my computer that I just started having problems with it as soon as I did this. It's not a software problem, but that's how you do it. It's that easy. In the Style Editor, you just create your new textures and you tile it, and then you can paint with those new textures. So I'm sorry it's not working, but it is a very easy feature that I've used to create these kind of these kind of textures. So the next webinar, once I get this thing fixed, then I'll show everybody how to do it.
Great. Thanks so much, Patrick. So I think that is going to bring us close to the end of our time today. So I am going to take back control of the screen here. Just waiting for that screen to come up. There we go. So I just want to say thanks to everyone for joining us today. We do have a number of folks on the webinar today that are using color and that are very productive with it, and that hopefully you learned something today. But we also have some folks that joined us today that aren't using color and that are considering it. So I hope that as a result of today's webinar, it does show you just how productive you can be and how professional the color renderings can be. So for those that don't have color at the moment, we are doing a special offer to you for 10% off your purchase that expires at the end of the day next Monday, so January 27th. That'll expire. If you're interested in taking us up on that offer, you can contact our sales team. You can give us a call at 1-800-710-1900, extension 2, or you can email them at sales@dynascape.com. So a special thanks to Patrick. He's a landscape designer, DuChene Design Solutions, and his email is here. And I'm Joe Salemi, Product Marketing Manager with Dynascape Software. My email address is also here, so if you have any questions, please get in contact with me. It's jsalemi@dynascape.com. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate your time, and hope you learned something today. Thank you.